What's up, ladies and gentlemen? It's Aeron Nix from the Wrestle Plug, and I'm here to discuss WWE NXT, the best 2 hours of wrestling in the week, at least in my opinion. And the show opens up with an absolute banger. What do I keep saying every week about how NXT has the leading women's division? And not only that, they have women's wrestling that they take seriously. Show opens with Shotzi Blackheart versus Candice LeRae. Love this match. Thought it was phenomenal. So smooth. Such great transitioning. There was a little bit of hesitation from me about Shotzi Blackheart. Not because she's great. I just wondered whether she would fit into a more main event style mold on NXT. Because you've got so much talent in that women's division. Raquel Gonzalez, Rhea Ripley, Io Shirai, Charlotte Flair came down for a stint as well. You know, Candice LeRae herself really starting to push for that more prominent position as a women's wrestler. But they seem to find room for all these incredible women to do amazing things. And Candice LeRae and Shotzi Blackheart had a phenomenal match. They had great synchronicity. There's great chemistry between the two. I love the way, which of course is Candice LeRae's faction with her husband, Johnny Gargano. The Gargano way, obviously. I just think the whole thing works so beautifully. Indy Hartwell's at ringside. I think they found a good niche for her. She works really well as kind of in the background a little bit, but she's also, you know, really tall, big specimen of a woman, proper meaty hoss. You know, she's great. She's fantastic as well. She fits in very nicely. I just liked it. I think it just works really well. There's great chemistry. Candice LeRae gets her way, pun intended, when she hits that swinging neck breaker off the second rope and pins Shotzi Blackheart. And that's another win for Candice LeRae. Keeps her in contention, keeps her looking legit, and I really appreciate that. Now, something about NXT, it's no surprise to people. I'm not a huge fan of Finn Balor. Not because I think he's rubbish or because he's not very good. It's just never really been my cup of tea, especially on the main roster. However, I have to say, after this week, there is a little bit of a fire inside of me that's starting to really appreciate this guy. Now, I've always loved him as an athlete. There's no question about that. When he was Fergal Devitt in New Japan, he was a world-class athlete. But I've always questioned his entertainment value. Case in point, his ability to cut a promo, not to mention his general presentation as a character. Nothing has ever been critiqued when it comes to his wrestling because he is pretty much as flawless as you could get. And in terms of looks, obviously one of the best looking men alive, ridiculously shredded. But I'm really starting to enjoy his promo chops a little bit here. Now, the Prince angle, you know, it's been done before, obviously, but not like this. He comes out and talks about being the champion, having a target on his back. This red cross is on my back. And he just delivers this promo so well. It felt so believable. This is the difference for me between NXT and AEW when it comes to these promos. Now, they've got some amazing promo guys on AEW. But this champion, for instance, you know, if you really buy into the Wednesday night, or which I don't, I just say to people, watch what you like. I like NXT more, so I watch it. It's not because I hate AEW. This is just tailored towards my tastes more. But look at the champions. You've got Kenny Omega on one side, and you've got Finn Balor on the other. You could argue that they're of a similar mould. Both incredible athletes, great to look at, but both have had a massive discrepancy when it comes to conveying their character on screen. However, I think this kind of promo is where Finn Balor has really stepped out ahead of someone like Kenny Omega and a lot of the Japanese imports who have come in and worked in the more North American sports entertainment-based variety of wrestling. A phenomenal promo. Pete Dunne interrupts, which obviously I'm going to pop for. Pete Dunne's part of the Pat McAfee brigade, minus Pat McAfee, who for some reason was taken off TV, which for me is one of the most short-sighted manoeuvres that I think NXT have pulled in recent weeks. Maybe some news will come out which will suggest why that is the case, but for me, I thought that was a bad decision. I think Pat McAfee was, frankly, one of the most intriguing and entertaining heels in the world at one point. But Pete Dunne comes out. Obviously, I'm happy about that, being British. Pete Dunne is quite literally, like he said, the poster child for European wrestling. And I love the fact they brought this up in a promo. It's such a good line. All I keep hearing about is how you're the poster child for European wrestling. I like the fact that Pete Dunne says, do you know what? European wrestling's important to me. And just because they're in America and just because this is being filmed in front of a majority television audience in America, obviously, for the USA Network, doesn't mean that he shouldn't bring up things like that. Those are the little niches that I really enjoy about wrestling. Pete Dunne's promo was fire as well. Obviously, they jump Finn Balor. Then he gets the save from Kyle O'Reilly and then the rest of the Undisputed Era. Ties in nicely to the fact that this show was predominantly based around the Dusty Classic, of course. At least the men's side of things. The women's side of things starts next week. I'm very excited to talk about that. Going to be dropping a video previewing the women's bracket as well, because obviously, as you know, we love women's wrestling here and I want to talk about it. But I thought this segment was great. Really cool. Really legit. Sets up Pete Dunne as a legitimate next contender. And obviously, who doesn't want to see Pete Dunne versus Finn Balor? And obviously, Pete Dunne later in the night saying that Kyle O'Reilly is in my way. And of course, he would make sure that Kyle O'Reilly would get out of his way later on in the evening. Grizzled Young Veterans open up the Dusty Rhodes Tag Team Classic. They are my pick. They are my favourites. Soon to be recognised as Liverpool's #1. Zach Gibson is easily one of the best heels in the world and one of the best mic workers in the world. Having Grizzled Young Veterans now as a regular staple of NXT makes me just want to watch this 2 hours of wrestling more than any other. Just that little bit more. Absolutely incredible. Now, they took on Everrise. I don't know much about Everrise. They look like a pair of jobbers. Very shiny, though. However, they did impress me in this match. Great chops, particularly when it came to talking in the ring. I love a talker, and I love a guy who's willing to talk in the ring. Kevin Owens is one of the best at it. And the guys from Everrise were doing a good job. They were goading in James Drake. I love the psychology of this match. This match was really physical. Had that real kind of European edge that I'm used to training in, that I'm used to watching. I loved it. Zach Gibson, James Drake hitting hard, but Everrise really kind of quite literally rising to that challenge. There's those puns again. And really delivering some hard-hitting offense in return. And what I liked about this was the psychology, the storytelling. It had a hard, fast pace without being over the top. They were still selling. This is an example of what people talk about when they talk about things like, say, the Young Bucks matches, or even, you know, in WWE, you've got a lot of guys like Ricochet, Mustafa Ali. You know, there can be an argument sometimes that these guys don't take a break. They don't breathe enough. They just go rapid like a Formula One car, and they never, ever slow down. A bit like myself when I'm talking, I guess. Let it breathe. Let it breathe. However, this had the right level of pacing with psychology, because even though it was going fast, there were still moments where you thought, okay, they're taking us up. And what I love about tag team wrestling as well is that opportunity to keep tagging in and out. It helps keep the psychological value of the match flowing. Obviously, the whole kind of storyline between Gibson and Drake, just for this match, which I love, was the fact that Gibson was the more level-headed, mature tag partner, and he was kind of trying to keep James Drake in check, and ultimately he used that to his advantage. He used his IQ, he used his intelligence to get one up on Everrise, and of course, Ticket to Ride, kaboom, and we have Grizzled Young Veterans into the next round of the Dusty Classic. I am extremely, extremely happy about that, because frankly, I think they're one of the best tag teams in the world. And I think it's just a matter of time before people recognise that themselves. Soon to be recognised as the Dusty Classic winners. Fingers crossed. Come on, lads. Come on. I would say do it for England, but Zach Gibson, if he was here, would tell me to go fuck myself, because he's doing it for himself. I don't even know if that guy's over in Liverpool. I don't care. I love him so, so much. He is an absolutely phenomenal individual. Moving on, obviously, we had other Dusty Classic matches as well. Now, who were going to be the surprise opponents? We saw MSK being advertised. They were going to take on Jake Atlas versus Isaiah Swerve. As soon as I saw it, I kind of had an inkling. It was kind of given away because I saw a tweet on Twitter. One of the individuals involved was asking for a quick, rapid shirt to be made, or some sort of design to be made, because it needed to be done within 24 hours. And I thought, NXT's tomorrow night. And I know you've just signed. And of course, MSK were revealed as Zachary Wentz and Desmond Xavier. Oh my days. Yes, indeed, the Rascals, now known as MSK, have arrived. Nash Carter and Wesley. Not feeling the names, but I'm not going to be one of those dumb smarks who's like, oh, they're fucking shit, I hate it, they've ruined them. It's just not my cup of tea. However, the wrestling hasn't changed. The quality, the style, the image hasn't changed. Zachary Wentz now known as Nash Carter, of course, and of course it'll be Desmond Xavier, who will be Wesley. These guys still know how to go. And I tell you what, getting in the ring with Isaiah Swerve Scott, aka Shane Strickland, and Jake Atlas as well, two legitimately great wrestlers. Fantastic stuff. What I found really interesting actually about this match was the fact that for a large portion of it, Desmond Xavier or Wesley, sorry, it's going to take a little while for me to get used to that. He took a real shellacking actually in this match. I thought he was, because I've seen this guy wrestle a number of times. He follows WrestlePlug. He's been really gracious with his time. He's always interacted with us. Absolutely amazing human being. I've met the Rascals quite a few times. It's just awesome people. For me, I was really surprised that he took most of the shellacking, because obviously we know just how great Wesley's offense is going to be. And, we got to see the assisted moonsault, which I was so happy about, because that is so sick. Scarlett and Grace used to do that all the time. I've been very blessed, very lucky to have seen these guys for years. Ultimately, MSK get the win. Isaiah Swerve Scott looked really good in this match. And he laid the foundations for obviously what would happen a little bit later on when he was squaring up to Jake Atlas. They needed to be separated. Then Bronson Reed gets in his face. We're getting Bronson Reed versus Isaiah Swerve Scott later down the line. Mwah. That's going to be magnificent, by the way. But it's MSK who get the win here and move on in a Dusty Classic. And I have no doubt that they are going to tear it up. I'm so excited to see what these guys can do in NXT. And also, from a personal standpoint, as somebody who's had kind of very small dealings with them and chatted to them, they're just awesome human beings. They're really nice. And it's lovely to see them living out their dream on the big platform that they deserve. I just think it's fantastic. You can't help but be happy for these two guys, and I wish them the utmost success in the future in NXT. We also had, right before our main event, another Xia Li appearance. Now, obviously, we've had this really kind of wicked, dark, menacing, sort of triad-esque angle. We don't know yet who it is. Now, there is a suggestion that Andrade is the man in the chair. No idea. So she wrestled some scrub, no offense, but I'm not going to remember your name if you lose in 20 seconds. I love this. There's a real... Now, obviously, anyone who knows me knows I love martial arts. I love Bloodsport. Bloodsport's my favourite film. I know it's cheesy. I don't care. Bolo Yeung for the win. Chong Li. And ultimately, she knocks this poor girl out pretty quickly. Stiff right hand and that sick roundhouse kick. Oh, it's so good. And obviously Xia Li is a legitimate martial artist. I love the presentation of it. It feels quite dark. It's got a Mortal Kombat-esque, right? And obviously Mortal Kombat, spoiler alert, is one of my favourite video games of all time. I love that franchise. Yeah, it just feels like that. It feels like a kind of Mortal Kombat come to life in front of me in wrestling, and I am here for it. I am ready for this content, and Xia Li knocking around was fantastic. I also love the aggression, that little bit extra. The guy has his hand up, and he's like kind of, almost like a little bit like Lana when she was with Rusev. Like, Rusev, crush, finish him, fatality. And boom, just fucking levels her against the ropes and knocks her out again. You think, oh, that was sick. I enjoy it. I really like the direction of this, and Xia Li, by the way, is looking so shredded. There's a woman who's been putting in the work. If you follow her on Instagram, obviously she's a very beautiful woman, as we know, but she's putting in a lot of work, and it shows, and I'm very, very impressed with what she has to offer. And yet again, it's another very cool women's dynamic that we aren't afforded on other shows on a Wednesday night. I'm just saying. Great stuff. Really enjoyed this. Thought it was fantastic. A few little bits of filler, obviously. Johnny Gargano, obviously not really a filler, but Johnny Gargano defended his North American Championship against Dexter Loomis. Love this match. Great to sit in the middle of the card. Dexter Loomis, by the way, massively underrated. I remember him as Samuel Shaw, of course, in TNA. Who doesn't remember Samuel's bedroom?
What are you doing in my bedroom? You want to explain this?
I said, what are you doing in my bedroom?
So yeah, anyway, great match. Fantastic stuff. Really appreciated it. Dexter Loomis got some great offense in. He's a great athlete, and he is so shredded. He's a tank. you know, and he comes across quite well in this gimmick of being a kind of pseudo serial killer stalking people. For some reason, it just works, and I love the use of the art. Austin Theory mocking Johnny Gargano backstage, laughing at him, saying, "It looks just like you," and he's like, "It doesn't look anything like me." Johnny Gargano, by the way, that backstage promo, when he just lost his shit, was gold. He's so good. Sorry, anyone who thinks Johnny Gargano isn't good as a heel, you are wrong. You need to be watching this stuff. It was gold. It was funny. It was amusing. And then Austin, so he pulls out a note. He goes, "Look, there's a picture of you as well, dickhead." And it's a picture of Austin Theory after he got shot in the nads last week, right in the ghoulies, as Wade Barrett would say. And he's like, "Well, that's not very nice." I was like, it's just, I think it's really funny. They've got great chemistry. Those two will debut in the Dusty Classic as well next week. Johnny Gargano, of course, thanks to shenanigans, retains against Dexter Loomis and is still, of course, North American champion, which you would expect. But I like this. Really fun match, and I liked all the comedic psychology that goes with it. Johnny Gargano rapidly becoming one of my most favourite and most amusing parts of television every week in wrestling. I think he's so funny, so entertaining. I love him. I think he's fantastic. He's the heel that we can all root against and the heel that we can all laugh at as well. And I think that's really difficult to do, actually, as a wrestler. But to be a great heel, you need to accept that you have to be an embarrassment at times as well. You need to be okay with people laughing at you. And Johnny Gargano, he just does everything, doesn't he? He can do a little bit of everything. He does feel like NXT's young Daniel Bryan in a lot of ways. And I'm very excited to see what he's going to do moving forward. But ultimately, I'm enjoying him so much in NXT, I kind of don't want to see Johnny Gargano on the main roster. I also love the sit down, by the way, between Timothy Thatcher and Tommaso Ciampa. That segment was fucking fantastic. It wasn't over the top. It didn't have pseudo celebrities or, you know, basketball players who haven't played in God knows how long. This was brilliant. Wade Barrett, who is obviously so legit himself as a wrestler and a fighter, he sits in the middle of these two. And they had this kind of UFC-esque fight conference because they're going to face each other in the fight pit next week. The match that was scheduled to take place, obviously, at New Year's Eve, but because of Thatcher's injury, they couldn't obviously have this match. Now he's cleared. It happens next week. What I love about this as well is how Tommaso Ciampa's trying to goad him. He's like, "What's your injury? What is it?" You know, so he's got something to target. I think that's so clever. Little bits of psychology like that. You don't always have to say it. What I love about this, they never insult our intelligence on NXT. That's something I absolutely love. Never, ever, ever should you insult the intelligence of the viewing wrestling public. And they didn't with this. This is going to be a barn burner. This is going to be two boys who are going to knock 7 shades of shit out of each other. And I am here for it. Give me what I want. It's going to be fantastic. And obviously Timothy Thatcher has the experience edge because he, of course, beat Matt Riddle in the fight pit, which is no mean feat of itself. Bearing in mind that Matt Riddle, of course, is an ex-UFC fighter. So from a kayfabe standpoint, that's pretty cool and pretty legit. I'm excited for this. I thought Tommaso Ciampa and Timothy Thatcher both delivered so well on the mic. The setup, the ambience, and as well, there was this kind of like menacing music playing in the background. The whole thing clicked beautifully. The main event, of course, tied everything in together in one nice little package as Breezango took on the Undisputed Era's Adam Cole and Roderick Strong for a place in the next round, of course, of the Dusty Classic. Now, the match was fantastic. It was great. It was athletic. I think Breezango are fantastic as well. I love those guys. I love the music. They're so sexy, by the way. Oh my God, that pair are so handsome. Gorgeous, gorgeous men, I tell you. Yeah, they could turn any a man, including myself. Ultimately, though, they get knocked off by the Undisputed Era. However, I would have actually preferred it if Breezango had won. Now, hear me out here. At the end of the match, obviously, we got the interruptions that we expected. Pete Dunne and the gang come down. Of course, the NXT Tag Team Champions are in tow in Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch. By the way, shout out to Danny Burch. Great to see the Governor doing so great on NXT. Great, great, great. There's a real great incision of British talent, European talent even, on this roster, and I'm so excited about that. Imperium, of course, as well, who will be flexing themselves later down the line in the Dusty Classic. Obviously, they get involved. Poor Kyle O'Reilly gets his fucking jaw squished. That looked horrible. Oh my lord. Obviously, Finn Balor comes down to try and help out. While that's going on, you think, oh, these shenanigans are going to cost Adam Cole. Adam Cole's facial expressions during this were phenomenal. He's like, "Kyle, what happened, Carl? And then he gets caught with a super kick. And you think, oh my God, Breezango are going to get him. But he has enough to kind of turn the tables. And of course, they knock off Breezango. And I would have actually liked it if they had gone for it. It would have been a hell of a statement if they had knocked out Undisputed Era in the first round. I don't think it would have hurt those guys. I think they're pretty much main roster bound pretty soon. It just feels imminent to me. Maybe the Royal Rumble, maybe a little bit later down the line after WrestleMania, they'll jump somebody in a major storyline. But for me, I would have really liked to have seen Breezango win. Failing that, it would have been nice to maybe see Breezango in the semi-finals or something, put them in a different part of the bracket and get there. I just feel like, they are former tag team champions, albeit for a cup of coffee. But these guys are so good at what they do and they're so entertaining. I would have liked to have seen them progress, but you can't really complain when the Undisputed Era win, can you? Because they're just incredible too. So fantastic. And also, of course, with all the fight breaking out with Kyle O'Reilly and the gang, that obviously sets up nicely this kind of rivalry with Finn Balor going after or Pete Dunne, should I say, going after Finn Balor at some point. And it just felt really well paced, this show. It kept giving you action, excitement, little bits of storylines. We had a fantastic debut. We had great progression in the women's angles and the men's. We even got like a cheeky little Raquel Gonzalez promo talking about how she's going to go after Io Shirai and how she destroyed Rhea Ripley and, probably not going to see her again on NXT at least. She's probably going to be going up to the main roster soon. I loved it. I thought it worked beautifully. It all felt so crisp and professional, the psychological stuff, and also the quality of wrestling. You get the best wrestling matches in the world for my money on NXT in a weekly capacity. I don't think weekly any show has better matches. Obviously, some people are going to argue for AEW. That's fine too. It's all subjective. But for me, NXT has far better wrestlers, in my opinion. And I love this. I love this show. This is definitely the best show I've seen all week. Looking forward to covering SmackDown as well. Let me know what you think if you watched NXT. Let me know what your thoughts are. Also, let us know what kind of content you want to see going forward from the WrestlePlug. Maybe you want to see more lists. Maybe you want to see more videos of me talking about my favourite wrestlers, etc., etc. Whatever it might be. Gotta let us know. Gotta use the comment section. Gotta use the social media at WrestlePlug, of course. But most importantly, hopefully you've enjoyed this and it's helped take your mind off of things, because obviously it is a very difficult time. Wherever you are in the world, please be safe. If you're in Britain, please look after yourselves, wear a mask, adhere to lockdown, all that nonsense. I know the government are a bunch of wavy, wanky head cock pheasants, but ultimately we all need to do our part. And if you're in America, of course, try and be safe. Please be safe. Please use, obviously, sensibilities when going outside, because it looks like it's getting pretty tasty out there right now. So please look after yourselves. But ultimately, thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you very soon for more content from the WrestlePlug.